Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode number 12. Think bigger, move faster, unlocking quantum growth through collective intelligence. Welcome, Elise.
Morning, Francis. Good to see you. Today is such an exciting topic. I mean, who doesn't want quantum leaps, right? I'm excited to talk about what that means and how to tap into thinking bigger and doing better things. Can I start with
Absolutely.
a story?
Yes. I think, we use a lot of those terms frequently, and I'm not sure exactly if people truly understand what that means, when we say exponential, geometric. Because I think we've been conditioned to not think that way, right? We are conditioned in a way that everything should be incremental, 10% improvement, 25, and really what we're doing is squeezing the lemon, and it's not fun. Like if I ask anyone to spend 25% of their time working on something, it's a quarter of your time. You're like, whoa, I'm not sure I have that. So what we want to teach today is not only what is quantum leaps, but also a strategy that can help you to move faster and think bigger. So I thought that even before talking about a story, we can actually explain what we mean by being exponential. This is a great book that you and I have read, and it's called U square, a high velocity formula for multiplying your personal effectiveness in quantum leaps. So what is a quantum leaps? Well, a quantum leaps, they say U square implies an explosive jump in your personal performance that puts you far beyond the next logical step. We have been conditioned to think logically, right? But we got to be illogical to create something fantastic. It's a formula for stunning advances in achievement and the realization of your dreams. The concept is one of exponential gains rather than incremental progress. You might compare it to multiplying instead of adding. It means a geometric progression in your effectiveness. That's exciting as well as provocative, but it gets even better. Remember, quantum leaps can come without apparent effort. These are high velocity moves that carry you to drastically higher performance level without, and that's the best part, time-consuming struggle. I don't know if you want to share the story about the fly. I'm just thinking about that. You and I
Yeah,
know that one.
absolutely. And as you were explaining it, I was thinking about that quote from Einstein that says, you can't keep doing the same thing and expecting a different result because that's the definition of insanity, right? And I think as you were explaining quantum leaps, that is this idea of, it's completely unlinear. You need to do different things. If you do more of the same, you're going to get the same results. So, I think fundamentally we all feel like if you just work harder, you're going to get better results. I think most people would agree to that. But we want to challenge that thinking, and maybe you need to do something completely different. So here's the story. I'm sitting in a quiet room at the Millcroft Inn, a peaceful little place hidden back among the pine trees, about an hour out of Toronto. It's just past noon, late July, and I'm listening to the desperate sound of a life or death struggle going on just a few feet away. There's a small fly burning out the last of its short life's energy in a futile attempt to fly through the glass of a window pane. The whining wings tell a poignant story of the fly's strategy. Try harder. But it's not working. The frenzied effort offers no hope for survival. Ironically, the struggle is part of the trap. It's impossible for the fly to try hard enough to succeed at breaking through the glass. Nevertheless, the little insect has staked its life on reaching its goal through raw effort and determination. This fly is doomed. It will die there on the windowsill. Across the room, just 10 steps away, the door is open. 10 seconds of flying time, and the small creature would reach the outside world it seeks. With only a fraction of the effort now being wasted, it could be free of its self-imposed trap. The breakthrough possibility is there, and it would be so easy. Why doesn't the fly try another approach? Something drastically different. How did it get so locked in on the idea that this particular route and determined effort was the most promise for success? What logic is there in continuing until death to seek a breakthrough with more of the same. No doubt this approach makes sense to the fly, but regrettably, this idea will kill. Trying harder isn't necessarily the solution to achieving more. It may not offer any real promise of getting what you want out of life. Sometimes, in fact, it's the biggest part of the problem. If you stake your hopes for a breakthrough on trying harder than ever, you may be killing your chances of success.
Powerful, very powerful. I don't know you, but it reminds me of every time that I go through this lesson, I think about, am I struggling? Am I trying too hard? Am I forcing the matter? Because when we're forcing the matter, usually it's first off, it's out of fear. We think that there's no other way but our way, as opposed to really take another look at a different perspective. And I actually remember that when one of my clients went through that lesson, not too long after, he just started to really think about the way he was doing his thing. Like, am I really optimizing the right thing? You know, this is, I think, one of the quotes, if guys are familiar with the science of scaling, and Dr. Benjamin Hardy, he talks about Elon Musk that said, you know, one of the biggest mistakes is optimizing the wrong thing. And so my client started to think about a little bit like that fly. Am I really struggling too much when maybe there's just a solution right around the corner that's so much easier? And he transformed one of his process where not only it was easier, but it was at least the same amount of revenue, if not more, by actually letting go of something that was not serving. So, and that was just thanks to this powerful story. And like we said, without the apparent struggling effort. And
Yeah,
one
I
thing I
think.
want to, yep.
Go ahead.
We're so excited about talking about this. I'll just
Yeah, go ahead.
finish with this. I'm curious about what you have to say, because there's another thing that said, you know, in that book, change your personal rules for success. And there's one that I highlighted, and it said, but if you want to accelerate your rate of achievement rapidly, you must search out and vigorously employ new behaviors, new attitudes. You must be willing to break out of your routine in order to make the quantum leap. This is very important, because exactly like you said with your definition of insanity and Einstein, you gotta have new behavior. You're gonna have new attitude, and it feels very different and foreign. This is not familiar. This is actually uncomfortable, and it's required, because that's how you're gonna have your quantum leaps, which means that you may fail many, many times in the beginning, and that's also required because you're doing something new.
Yeah, it's such a good point. And I think, look, we often talk about action and how important it is to take action. And I think that's still so important. But the openness to trying new things, to be open-minded, to iterate and improve. You know, I think a lot of people talk about like hustling and pushing and working hard. And I think that working hard is always important, but doing the same thing over and over again and just hoping that more of the same is going to get you a different result. That's what we're talking about. So it's not that you must change the goal or change what you're doing. You must just think, is my approach right? And how about thinking about things differently? And I think that's why today talking about masterminding is so powerful, because you want to tap into different ways of thinking, different perspectives, being open-minded about approaching things differently. Because often, like the fly, we're trying so hard to fly through that window, and you just think, I must just keep going and I must be persistent, and you think that's eventually going to work. But if you just stood back and thought about a different approach, there was a door open and the fly could have gotten out without any apparent effort. We want to make sure that there isn't an open door for you. And stepping back and getting a little bit of a new perspective, there's potentially a way easier way to get what you want and get those results without like forcing it and being so set in your ways about the way in which you go about it.
Yeah, and I love this picture. I'm sure people will smile, you know. And what if, imagine if we can just consume, extract all of the juice from different brains and different minds in order to achieve something very powerful. And what the Napoleon Hill said about the mastermind is that it's no two minds ever come together without thereby creating a third invisible, intangible force, which may be likened to a third mind. So it's that's how it becomes geometric. It's not just 1 + 1 = 2. It's 1 + 1 = 3 or 4 or 5 or 6. I remember myself like doing some of those masterminding sessions with people in my group. At that time, right now we're only focused on men. It's called the nightclub. And years ago, it was also with women. And we had this masterminding session. And just to be clear, I'll just let me just switch my screen here. A masterminding session is really a way to open up to other people about your struggles, your challenges in an environment that's safe, where you can share what's going on and people will jump in a structured way to offer some solutions. And so at that time, we had this person, her name is Melanie. She basically talked about her challenge. She's building websites, and all of a sudden we jumped in and we had different types of perspectives. And right after this, she decided to shift the way she was doing things. She decided to also have an office in Toronto and partner with a woman that was, if I do remember, she was in the digital, she had an ad agency. So perfect alignment, right? An ad agency, but she's not doing website. And she partnered with this woman, and all of a sudden we're talking about geometric growth. And it required also her to take a leap of faith and really go get an office instead of working at home. And it was just, and she will always say, she said, thanks to that masterminding session, something amazing happened, and now my business is just geometric and grew so fast. And that's the power of collective intelligence. That's actually a way of having a competitive advantage, just by using the other minds that actually have your back, people that want to support you.
I mean, I think we all know that the power of surrounding yourself with the right people. And I think masterminding is such a good example of that. We all know that we become like the people we spend most of our time with. So for me, the principle of masterminding is finding people that you trust, that you know who have your best interests at heart, and learning from one another and being open-minded and realizing that we can learn from everyone. And even when people aren't in your business, I think sometimes that's actually the best people to tap into, because they've got a completely new perspective on your business. So I run this kind of masterminding executive group here in Pittsburgh. I work with Vistage, who facilitates kind of this setup, and it's so powerful seeing when people come together in a really authentic manner, wanting to help one another. And I always find it so interesting, because we intentionally build the group to have people from different industries, so that you feel like you can share your strategy and share openly about your business without a competitor being in the room. And it's so often, interesting seeing people with such different businesses giving each other such powerful ideas. Like the manufacturer and the lawyer will fundamentally have a similar issue in terms of dealing with people or culture or, changing strategies, but their approach and how they do it and how they communicate with their teams and how they execute is so different. And like when you see someone giving like the other one an idea, they often like, what? Like, I've never thought about that, and seeing those kind of light bulb moments for me is so powerful, because I think sometimes we're so in the detail of our business or about personal goals that we're trying to achieve. And you're so in the detail that you battle to stand back. And if there are people that know and care about you and really want to help you, they aren't as close to the problem. And then sometimes just that new way of thinking or slightly adjusted approach can be so powerful. And I love it when they go, that's amazing. Like, I never thought about that. And then next month you come back and they're like, guys, you told me this and I've implemented it and this is the result it's given. And so often it's just that small tweak in the way you approach things that give you such a big difference in the result.
Yeah, and I like the fact that, we talked about safety. It's a place where people share important things about their business and even sometimes about life. And being open-minded is so important. I challenge everyone to find their own mastermind, to have this type of group, because not only the environment makes a big difference. Bob Proctor says, it's not a heredity that's the most important thing, but it's your environment, because that's how you can change the current circumstances. And what I thought about when you shared your experience with Vistage is that it's so good when you can go find ideas from different industries. And what I mean by that is I had the chance, I think it was almost a year ago, I went to a show of designers, which is not my industry. It's not my industry at all. And then I realized how, for them, the story is that woman was describing that they're opening up a hotel, and in that hotel they really want to make sure that this becomes the landmark of the city, and so they want to create an experience where people come in, they find a special vibe, they find a special way of being. And then, for example, they had some soap that they decided that they would create from the woods of the nearest forest, things like that, that the level of detail for creating an experience was next level. And so when I looked at that, I just thought, wow. And I shared that with my group, and I said, imagine thinking about how you can wow your clients that way, really from the customer journey. For them, the people are coming in inside the hotel, they see the lobby. What's going to be the experience about the lobby? When they sit on the chair, why do we pick that chair? And then there's the art pieces with local artists. And so the level of detail from these people that designed the hotel gave me such an inspiration to question myself about how do my clients experience the group, the nightclub.
Yeah.
And so the point of that is that now you can pick up really powerful examples from different industries, and you realize, wow, that's how I can up level my business. And I think if we look at some of the innovations, usually it's not by being in the same peer group. It's because we were borrowing ideas from different industries, different modalities, and we say, what if we combine this with this? And then all of a sudden we're creating really, truly innovative solutions.
And what comes to mind is like the innovation, the creativity that comes together, right? That's why it's always so powerful having more than one person, because often you can leverage off each other. You know, you may say something, it triggers a thought in mine, and then we almost like combine all these ideas to come up with great solutions. So, you know, I always think that there's nothing more powerful than a group of people and a whiteboard. Because I love writing things down and like iterating and thinking of ideas, and then often the combined thoughts and ideas of everyone is where the real power is.
And we will give you some principles that I think are very, very powerful. And actually this morning, I'm part of a mastermind as well. And every call, we read those. I know I'm conscious that this is very small. So I'm just you guys can take a snapshot at the moment, or if you watch the replay, you can do it. So this is what we use for starting every conversation with the mastermind. So I'll stop here. I'll just share it myself on a couple principles that I think are very effective. One, it's called I believe. I believe the combined intelligence of the mastermind creates a wisdom far beyond my own. And by the way, these principles are read by each member. So we alternate. We would go from the first principle to the second to the third, and we just read it out loud when we start the meeting. Even if the meeting is only for 15 minutes or 20 minutes, it's very important to set the tone so that we're ready to ideate, and we're ready to cultivate ideas that will help solve challenges or issues for one of our colleagues, or friends. So now another one is I decide to release my desire totally in trust to the mastermind, and I'm open to accepting new possibilities. Another one, I ask the mastermind to hear what I really want, my goals, my dreams, and my desire, and I hear my mastermind partners supporting me in my fulfillment. So this is something that now, like I said, you can take a snapshot, go back, and really implement this strategy to start to create quantum leaps in your business with the power of mastermind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think those principles are great, that you get everyone aligned about what you're there for, because the idea is that, you know, it's a space of giving, it's a space of supporting one another, and the idea of you receive when you give. And I think, you know, in giving like in an abundant manner to people in terms of helping them, yeah, you receive the same back from your partners, and being like there in such a sincere manner is incredible, because we all know that often you talk about things and you're actually, while you're helping another person, you're often receiving ideas as well, right? You're learning from one another. And I think that having the space of people you trust, it's confidential, and you're all there to support one another. I mean, it is such a powerful sense of community, of everyone just wanting to uplift one another together.
Yeah, and I'll share again about this morning. So the way we start our call is with the mastermind principles, and then after that we had rounds of sharing first off our wins. So that's a way of creating a format, talking about the wins and really talking about what do you need from the mastermind. And what I've realized is that, I mean, in that case, we're all same certified consultant for Procter and Gallagher, and we have different avatars, but it's very interesting to see just by being in a mastermind that each and every one have different strategies to create new ways of building business. One guy is really focusing on one segment with the dentist, and he's also creating a Facebook groups, and he's going into a lot of different podcasts. Another woman is using LinkedIn with Salesforce to have a lead, and hired a salesperson that's commission based so that she can grow her business. And then there's another one that is thinking about YouTube. So the point is that you're gaining so much new perspective, and then I guess it's the next step is really to find something that you relate to, that it's aligned with your personality. Because at the end of the day, I think there's so many ways of growing the business. I mean, we can all argue that one way is better than another. So what's the result? Like, do something that truly aligns with your value, with who you are. Some people are focused on a certain type of industry, and some with different types of clients. For me, it's entrepreneur business owners. And, when I see them showing up, sharing their ideas, and really taking care of each other, it's so powerful. And I'll just continue to add one more thing, is that's a suggestion of a way of creating your structure. Two ways. One, you can definitely, what's very important, like we said, is having an open mind, and also truly listen and give everyone their own voice. So we time it. It's structured, it's 5 minutes each. So that means that everyone will have the chance to speak up. So you can actually start the session by saying, this is what I'm going through. You spend X amount of time. And the next round is more about each and everyone asking questions to clarify if they really understood what the challenge is. And the third step is to say, okay, so now here's what I would actually suggest, or here's my recommendation. Each and everyone is sharing that way. And it's truly powerful. The second way is that you can, instead of saying to the person in front of them, what I recommend, we actually shut down the video, because we're doing it online and virtual, and we say, after we have actually asked the questions, validate what the challenge is, we simply say, I wonder if. So how does that look like? That means that, let's say I would have to give some recommendation to Elise. I would say, Elise, okay, now you can just close down your video, and everyone's going to say, I wonder if Elise has thought of creating a mastermind with CEOs. And I wonder if Elise has decided to do XYZ. So it's kind of a little bit softer. And then at the end, we open up the video, and Elise would just share what occurred to her. So two ways that are very powerful, and that's how we did it inside the mastermind that I have. And I highly suggest that anyone creates a mastermind, either for them personally with their friends or for the business.
I think what you said is really important about asking questions, because what I've found is that often people come with something that they kind of want feedback on or help from the mastermind. But I think sometimes we go, okay, I want my business to increase its revenue. But if you dig a little bit deeper, why is this important to you? What have you tried to date? And just understand exactly what is the crux of it. Then typically, going into those questions for me are so powerful. And it shouldn't be questions that are like, have you tried this? You don't want yes, no questions. You want open-ended questions. When did this happen? Or what happens if this, if you've tried that? Or what would it look like? What would success look like? Ask very open-ended questions. How would this occur? What, when, how, why, those kinds of questions. You want open-ended questions. You really want to dig into what is the underlying reason for this question, because often it's something different to what the person came up with. It's a belief they have. It's something it's a very specific perspective they have. And often we know that we create stories around things, right? And you actually want to get into that, like, the crux of where the story comes from. Once you get into the belief and the origin of this thinking, that's where you really make these different we can really make a difference. And you and I have often spoken about paradigms. You're actually trying to get to that, right? What is the paradigm around this topic that we actually need to solve? Because that'll then change the actions and the results. And it's interesting how this is coming back to what we've been speaking about in the past weeks. But for your mastermind to understand that we are helping you uncover those hidden paradigms and beliefs. And that once you're aware of it, you can start thinking about how you can change that. And then, your actions and results will change.
And I love that you bring the distinction of asking questions, because I feel that not only the mastermind provides answers to your challenges, it also clarifies what's the real problem. I feel that sometimes the people, by talking about their challenges, they come up with their own solution, or they're identifying, like, really with clarity, what is the problem. And that's by asking specific questions that people are going to start to realize, wow, I never saw it this way, and you're asking me a really good question. And it's also interesting that you talk about paradigms, because I believe that we already know that 95% of everything that we do is coming from our own paradigm. And so what I see in the masterminding sessions is that usually we're stuck in our own mind with logical ways to solve a problem, as opposed to be totally illogical. And that's how we create new perspective that are creating geometric results. And it's usually founded and sitting inside ourself, like in the way of being. So one idea that comes to mind, or an example, is that when we had the last masterminding session, what we saw was not a lack of possible answers and strategy. What we saw was simply a human being that needed to trust himself a little bit more. And so when we actually closed the camera off, pretty much everyone said, and I'm not going to use his name, let's say it's John, we all said, I wonder when John's going to start. I wonder when John's going to start to believe in himself. And it was across the board, and it was said with so much love that, when John opened up his camera, he's like, wow, thank you guys. And we all said, we see you. You have everything that you have all that it takes to do this. Just believe in yourself and do it. Start. And that's how powerful. Imagine, like, if you just you get the permission from others, and they validate you and saying, you've got it all. Just go for it. Yes, go for it. Now all of a sudden, maybe things that you've put on hold for 6 months, for a year or 2 or 3 or whatever, maybe a decade. Now, thanks to a group of people that believe in yourself, thanks to the environment that's positive, now you're acting on something that's meaningful in your life.
Yeah, and I think another important part of this is accountability. When you've said to a group of people, I'm going to do this, there's, like, you've said it out loud. It's not like you're saying to yourself, yeah, I'll try and get to that tomorrow. I try and keep my group really accountable. Like, Francis, you said you were going to do this. Like, has it happened? What happened? And let's help you through that journey. Because I think it's one thing to come up with ideas of what you should do, but often it's a journey of iterating and improving and learning and, all of that. And having a group of people that can walk that journey with you, going, you took the first action. This is what you battled with. Let's help you refine and move forward. That is really powerful, that we have the sense of accountability. And again, people that want you to succeed. So they want to help you along this journey of getting through to the other side and really hitting those goals.
Yeah. And now it makes me think of integrity for us. Like, that's this distinction that I even talked about this morning. I think that when you have a mastermind group, what's very important is that people, to start with, are on time. And many people, guys, would say, like, as soon as it starts to deviate, I'm always going back to what integrity is. And so I'll give you this definition for all who are watching right now. Integrity is not morality. So what I mean by that is that if you are falling short of your commitment, you're not a bad person. Because many people, they are afraid of making a commitment, because if they do and they fail, then they're going to see themselves as a bad person. So the way we treat integrity, and masterminding groups are a perfect place to practice that, to practice being integral to your own word, to your commitment. The reality of integrity is workability. That means that if I know that I can count on you and you're integral to your word, things will work out. There's a great article that's called, actually, Integrity is Not Morality, it's Workability. And you can increase 500% of your performance within a team just by being more integral. And so, like, when you talk about accountability and integrity, this is what is actually not only necessary, but this is what it's expected. It's expected that other members will say, "What about this? You said that you would do it." And again, not to think that if you don't, you're a bad person, but it's more about, well, I guess it's not going to work. So what's your next step? What are the agreements that we can have in place for the group here or for your own team so that things are going to start to work out? So, and all of these things emerge thanks to a mastermind that keep people accountable, that are integral to their mission, to what they want to do in life with their business, their personal life. And so, yeah, integrity is very important. I wanted to add that to the party.
Thank you.
Now, we're going to finalize with a beautiful, like a little quote that I love as well. Yeah, we just started with this, right? U square. Never think linear about the future. Think in terms of leap. Think leaps. Always expect the unexpected. That's what it is. It's all about knowing that we don't need to struggle that much. We don't need to make too much effort. And now we have a solution called the Mastermind to really go to the next level.
Yeah.
Another one is you don't need to know what you're going to get. You just need to decide where you want to go. And I think that's going back to lesson number one. Very important aspect of deciding. That could be your moment today to say, I choose to make a difference in my life. I choose to think that it's possible to do geometric or exponential results, and I choose to create a mastermind, really.
I'm open-minded enough to think differently. I think Bob Proctor in his lesson talks about masterminding and kind of quantum leaps being like multiplication versus addition, right? Yeah. And how different and how quickly you can improve when you think about exponential or multiplying your results, which is really exciting. So in terms of our takeaways, we say here quantum leaps require quantum environments. And we must be open to thinking about exponential growth and not just thinking about linear improvements. Then proximity is a strategy. We know how important it is to surround ourselves with good people. So your mastermind is not just a support group. It challenges assumptions and accelerates action. And that's where we want to talk about being open-minded, open to new ideas, and absorbing the collective wisdom of the group.
Yeah, and feedback is the fuel, right? This is the collective advantage, the collective intelligence that we have thanks to the multiple minds, which is a third mind, really. So if you're 2, then you're creating a third mind. If you're 8, you're creating a multitude of minds that will have a lot of different types of solutions. And I think you and I love that one. I know you can share it. We can almost toss it. We just love the way it says it, right? Isolation. I'll give you the last word. Isolation is the enemy of
innovation. Isolation is the enemy of innovation. Isn't that powerful? I love that. Just sitting by yourself, mulling over the same issues over and over again. We know that our mind is going to get stuck in this loop, right? So don't take on things by yourself. Don't battle with something by yourself. Make sure that you get these other minds to help you think exponentially and blow through those goals.
Yeah, and we were a perfect example, right? You and I met because thanks to the same organization, we decided not to do that alone. And it's so much more fun. So much more fun to do these things with you guys. And now that we've completed the 12 episode, we're gonna actually start to create new series on different subject, go a little bit deeper because we've given you the base, the foundation. And perhaps we'll go back to these foundations because the key to progress is to repeat and to keep repeating on and on, the constant space repetition, so that our subconscious mind is starting to change. And I know Elise is an exceptional leader, so I strongly suggest or recommend you to get in touch with her if you're looking to change the way you're leading your team with the CEOs and leaders. And you can also connect with me if you're interested to have men, entrepreneurs, business owners together with a club that I call the Night Club, where we can not only share about our business and grow together, but also going into very personal stuff where it's a safe container to do it together.
Yeah, everyone should follow Francis. You have got some great ideas and amazing things happening. So please connect with him, hear what he's doing. And it's a really exciting kind of global movement he's starting. So definitely something everyone wants to be part of.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for tuning in, guys. We'll let you know about the next round of the, Thought Leader Thursday. Thank you for being here, and thank you, Elise, for all your wisdom as usual.
Excited for the next version of this. We'll see you soon. Thanks, everyone.
Sounds good. Cheers, guys.
Bye-bye.